How you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today we're going to take a look at Infinity Incorporated. Now, this might be a confusing comic book because it is. I talked about the Crisis on Infinite Earths, and the Crisis on Infinite Earths just destroyed the continuity and the backstory of this comic. But right here, this is yesterday the All-Star Squadron. I can't talk. Starting off the video well. Today, the Justice Society, and tomorrow, Infinity Incorporated. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. The All-Star Squadron was like DC's World War II super team, and all the superheroes teamed up to fight in World War II. And then today, at current day, they became the Justice Society, and the Justice Society were the equivalent of the Justice League on Earth 2. And this Earth 2, to make it even more confusing, was the original DC universe. And then somewhat, I think it was with the Flash comic, I think they did Earth 1 and transferred everything over. Could be wrong with that. So at this point in DC history, there's multiple parallel dimensions with Earth 1 and Earth 2, and they're separate. So they had the All-Star Squadron, and then instead of the Justice League, they had the Justice Society. And these were the original superheroes. And then Infinity Incorporated is their children. So it's Roy Thomas who left Marvel for DC. And I've said this before, and I'll stand by it, that he is just a walking encyclopedia of all things comic book. Jerry Ordway, just like one of the elder statesmen of comic book artists, and Mike Mocklin, the inker. $1.25, 1984. So this was a direct market comic. Okay, it's not a wraparound cover, meaning it came out only in the newsstand, and it was on a better quality Baxter paper. So if you went into a 7-Eleven, you would never see this on a spinner rack. You'd have to go into a comic book store to get this. Okay, the new generations of superheroes is here. So I'll do a quick rundown of everybody, and then I'll talk about more of the concepts of the team as we go along. So I'll have to talk about the people in the background first. So this is like an homage to the Justice Society cover number 1. They were all sitting around a table. Okay, so DC has done homages to that cover over and over again. So over here, you have the original Atom, and I can't remember his name, and he was just a tiny scrappy guy who put on one of the worst but most wonderful costumes at the same time. The Simon Williams Wonder Man syndrome. Just costume so bad it's awesome. So he's the Atom. He had no powers. He just knew how to fight. And later on, due to a battle with one of his villains called Cyclotron, he got irradiated, and he got the standard array of heightened endurance, heightened strength, and super agility. So he became a tiny powerhouse. That's Wesley Dodds, the original Sandman. That's his superhero mask. I still love the original tube, original World War I gas mask. But his power was he had a gun that he would spray and put you to sleep, and then he wore a mask so he wouldn't fall asleep, and then but he was more like a detective. And then they kind of retrofitted him that he had these precognitive dreams to tie him into the Morpheus Sandman version. Okay, this is the Specter, Jim Corrigan, the cop, who was Al Rothstein. That's his name, Al Rothstein. And he is Jim Corrigan, who was a cop who shot in the line of duty and came back to Earth because his to perform vengeance on the wicked. And at this point, I don't think he was cosmically overpowered, but he was had ghost powers, could pass through walls and fly, turn invisible, and he just grew to be like one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He got to be so powerful that people didn't really buy his comics because you kind of lose touch. This is Jay Garrick, the original Flash. With the Mercury type helmet and everything. I love that. Carter Hall, the original Hawkman, with that mask so bad it's wonderful. I love that. Kent Nelson, Dr. Fate. He's like DC's Doctor Strange. He gets an edge on it because he puts on this helmet, and it's like magic is just downloaded into his brain, and at one point he becomes like one of the Lords of Order. And this is Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. His weakness was wood, so his Green Lantern energy couldn't touch wood. And this is Rex Tyler, Our Man. And originally he wore like a trench coat and like a domino mask, and then he adopted a more superhero costume. And he was a chemist who invented a pill, Miraclo, and you take the pill, and for like exactly 1 hour you got like the standard array of superpowers. You got invulnerability, heightened strength, heightened endurance, and all that stuff. And then of course later on they made it so that he was like addicted to Miraclo, add some drama. It was a lot of fun. Now the people in color, these are their children. This is Nuklon. Great costume. Worst name in Nuklon. He is the godson of the Atom, and I don't know how he got his powers. He was a mutant or something like that, and he's invulnerable, super strong, and then he could grow big, and then he could also change his density. So he's kind of a powerhouse. Later on, they changed his name to Atom Smasher, which is just a great name. That's such a better name than Nuklon. And here's the Silver Scarab. That's Hector Hall, the son of Carter Hall and Shira, his wife, Shira Hall. And he has like he has this like alien metal. This little circle here is called nth metal. I don't know why. And it's like this alien metal, and it's like magical and technological at the same time. And the ancient Egyptians landed on Earth, crash landed, and he took this metal, and it affected him, and it creates like an aura around him, so he could, protected by environments, and he's a little bit stronger, and then he can defy gravity and fly. So this suit is made out of the nth metal, and it absorbs like cosmic energy, and so he's like a technological Iron Man kind of thing. Silver Scarab. This is the Huntress. This is Helena Wayne. She's the daughter of the original Batman and the original Catwoman, and she's just like Batman, but a female. This is Sylvester Pebbleton, the Star-Spangled Kid, and he invented this cosmic belt that channels cosmic energy and gives him flight and vulnerability, super strength, and then he could also shoot like star-shaped energy projectiles, like almost like energy shuriken. He had a sidekick. His gimmick was he was a kid superhero, and his sidekick was Stripesy, and he was an adult. So that was, subverting expectations on the sidekick trope. This is Jade. Jenny Hayden, I think, is her name. And she's the daughter of Green Lantern. At the point, she just suspected she was the daughter because she has similar powers, except she has a birthmark on her hand that she could shoot her energy constructs out, and she could will herself to look normal skin tones. And it turns out in Infinity Incorporated Annual #1 that it is revealed that is her daughter. She also has a twin brother who's not on the cover called Obsidian. And this is Karen Starr, Power Girl. She's the cousin of the original Superman. So she's the Earth 2 equivalent of Supergirl. And I already talked about her in a previous showcase. She was created by Wally Wood. Wally Wood was a famous troublemaker. And one of the things that Wally Wood did when he created her is every issue he drew her, he made her chest larger and larger and larger too. It was like ridiculous proportions, because that's one of the things you weren't allowed to do in comic books, was over-exaggerate a woman's proportions. So he just did it every issue just as a goof to see how long it would take before he got into trouble. Well, he got away with it pretty badly until I guess they asked him to stop. And this is Brainwave Jr. He's the son of the original Brainwave, who was a villain. What's it, Hank something, and so he joins the team, and he has like telekinesis and telepathy and those kind of powers. So let's look at the comic. Okay, look at the ad for Parker Brothers Atari games. Let's look at the indicia. Published monthly by DC Comics. That's their address, postmaster, subscription. So copyright 1983, and I think it came out in 1984. Here's a phone number. You want to call them? Call DC right there. Okay, yeah. But it says on the cover March 1984, so we'll stick with 1984. Okay, so here's just a roll call. This is that's the original picture, and that's the cover for Justice Society #1. Just there's the emblem, and this is their meeting room. So there's a few other people inside here. That's Hawkman with his other other mask. That's the original Wonder Woman. That's Adam, his new costume. I just love that costume. I was hoping they would show his ugly costume. That's Dr. Midnight. That's Johnny Thunder, who has the magic thunderbolt. That's Starman. Just a great comic. Ted Knight, Starman. And this is Wildcat, Ted Grant, Wildcat. And that's the Robin. That's the original Robin. So here they're having the meeting, and hold on, and they come bursting in. Okay, I already talked about these two, and this is Northwind. Northwind is from a race of bird people that Hawkman encountered. So, and Hawkman became friends with them. So this is Hawkman's like godson. So he's a hybrid. He's because the Birdmen people actually have like bird heads. So one of their parents, I forget which, is a anthropomorphic bird person, and one of the parents is a human, and his name is Norda Cantrell. And who is this? This is the character that got messed up the most by the Crisis on Infinite Earths. I actually feel bad for this character. This is Helena Trevor. This is Fury. She's the daughter of Steve Trevor and Diana Prince, the original Wonder Woman. So she has like all of Wonder Woman's powers. And you'd see the Wonder Woman with the gray hair. Great hair, I could practically guarantee that I know at least one of them. So they're just like, they're bursting in. They want to be on the team. So they're like, the classic superhero trope, we got to fight. So they're all jumping up, and they're starting to scrap. Wonder Woman, basically daughter of Wonder Woman versus Superman's cousin, and Ted Grant's going to throw a punch. Missed. The big guy's fast. And here's this things are going crazy. Just a battle. And I also must point out that this isn't their first appearance. Their first appearance was in All-Star Squadron. I got to remember which comic it was. But what happened was they All-Star Squadron 25. What happened is that comic is set in World War II. So they debuted in that comic, but then they tied it into this because in a later issue they go back in time. So they never met Infinity Incorporated at this point. And then when they go back in time, they never met him again. So they're like, come on, let's... one of them says, I vaguely remember them. Wait a minute, I think I could clear all this up. And they start to remember, because keep in mind that was like 45 years ago in their time. And this is an Ed executive's idea of what teenagers were like back in 1984. This is what, Madison Avenue thought kids looked like. In $1 million comic Christmas, what is? Oh, a fishing reel. Okay, so Garcia, get a fishing reel. Spider-Man. Oh, I just realized there's a Spider-Man ad in a DC comic. Christmas rebate spectacular. So get a fishing reel. So that's kind of odd that there's video games and fishing reels. I guess the 80s were a weird time. So here they are fighting. His cosmic energy versus his cosmic energy. Norda jumps up and he grabs them, and the trope is going on too far. So Wonder Woman goes to the last woman, but Fury gets it. You won't catch me that easily, mother. And they're like, she called you mother, then that means I'm guessing right. And it clinches my suspicions about that carrot-topped Colossus. So now they stop fighting. Because, you want to join the team and show that you're responsible superheroes. You just bust in and start swinging. So the fight stops. But that's such a comic book trope. You got to have the superheroes fight. That's just such a trope. So here they are. They're unmasking, and they're talking, and it's like, we demand... He goes... They're scolding him. These are old school parents. I can't believe I respected more out of you. He goes, in your world, it seemed appropriate to take the direct approach. And she's yelling, I'm not a kid anymore, mother. I wish you'd remember that. So here they are. They're getting scolded. And here's a nice group shot of all of them. So they're basically saying, you're young hotheads. You can't join the team. And I just love that, the lightning bolt. Okay, right. We're not here to start a membership drive, and then Carter Hall is yelling at them. So, because, now look, mind if I butt in? I'm sort of a second generation here. Be my guest. The Ultra Humanite and his boss have sent months in limbo, blah, 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 blah. So he's talking some sense. we're going to demonstrate our powers. I think we already seen that. So there's debate first. So now they're starting to grow on me. Naturally, we want to be fair and objective. Fair. So now what happens is they said, okay, we're going to have a debate. So the old team is going to go into the other room and argue the merits of their case. And Adam gives a wink. Yeah, so we already know how he's going to vote. I guess it's off to the green room. So they're going into the back room, and here they're going to see if we could join. And then they slam the door, and that's it. So now they're just wandering the Justice Society's headquarters while they're talking about their exploits and everything like that. I just love the artwork. Jerry Ordway is such a classic artist. So now they're just talking about growing up. My father was a superhero, and the origins, and he became a scientist and went to school. There he is. He meets this hot blonde, and the hot blonde, there's an earthquake, and the hot blonde holds up the wall. He's like, "What?" And that's you're Helena Fury, Lita, Hippolyta. That's her name. I called her Helena, but Hippolyta, named after the Wonder Woman's mother. So Lita, they call her. So you're Lita, Trevor. And yeah, so they were little kids together. Now they re-meet in college, and now they're a couple. They get married, and growing up on Paradise Island. That's the original Hippolyta. She had dark hair, and then they changed it to blonde hair later on. Like I said, some people say that there was 3 versions of Wonder Woman. Some people say there was only 2. And then they had like these kangaroos on Paradise Island, and now. What's his name is going to talk. He's 7.5 feet tall. The Nucleon. I'm just going to call him Atom Smasher because I hate the name Nucleon so much. So again, they're going over their history and everything like that. He shows her the costume, and now he's talking about his origin. So that is, look at that costume. It's so bad. Blue, yellow, and brown. Look at that color scheme. So that's the original Adam's costume, and he's talking about his my grandfather, Dr. Terry Curtis, real name Kurtzberger, was briefly a super bad guy. Okay, that I forgot about that detail. So Nucleon's grandfather was the original Cyclotron, a bad guy with radioactive powers. So, but he wasn't really a bad guy. He was kind of like forced to do it because this is a villain called the Ultra Humanite. Ultra Humanite's I'll get to the Ultra Humanite. But the I'll talk about it now, since the Ultra Humanite was a scientist who developed this ability to transfer his consciousness into other people's bodies. And he called his host bodies Humanites for whatever reason. I guess that was the 40s, sounded scientific. And that he was the Ultra Humanite because he was the controller of the Humanites. So he was originally like a Lex Luthor Baldville, and then he went into this like beautiful actress, and then he went into, believe it or not, a giant insect, and then he went into like this specially developed mutated ape, and that's where he is today in the body of a mutated ape. And because of his mutations, he could also like project like telepathy and telekinesis. So he has like all these vast mutant abilities. He's actually a pretty scary villain, and he was forcing Dr. Terry Curtis to Kurtzberger to become a villain, even though he didn't want to. And when he was fighting the Atom, he doused him with lethal like radioactivity. And just before he died, so he was actually killed by his own powers, and it turned the Atom, who was just a scrapper, into an actual superhero. And then, because he realized that the villain wasn't really a bad guy, he kind of took responsibility for his children, and that's his godson. And now, at first he was a tiny little kid, but then he had growth spurts. Now he's like 7.5 feet tall. He's just naturally strong. So he's actually a mutant. Yeah, that's right. He's actually a mutant. And of course he meets these two, and he talks him into joining the team. So he's like, a superhero. I gotta look like a superhero. So he shaves his head into a mohawk because it's the 80s. So now we're talking about Northwind. He lives. Look at these bird people. So Hawkman discovered this hidden society of bird people. Hidden society is not just a Marvel thing. There's a whole bunch of hidden societies in DC also. So he goes to this hidden society, Featheria, in northern Greenland, the bird people. So he becomes friend, and he brings Carter. He brings a scientist with him to study, and Warla is Hawkman's friend. So he falls in love with Warla's daughter, and they have little baby Norda, little kid coming out of an egg. Cheap. There you go. That's his origin. Okay, so he joins up. So that's how he meets up. Pretty cheesy. So they're just waiting, and now the Hawkman is the chairman of the Justice Society, and it's 7-7. Then it remains me as the chairman to cast the deciding vote. So it looks like showtime, friends and neighbors. Okay, kids, come and get it. Somehow I don't like the way he said it. So what's the story, Dad? Are we in? I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry, son. The rest of you, but you're all very young and inexperienced, and perhaps you'd want to reapply at some future date. We can't let your exceptions in. Hector, please. Yeah, like when we're ready for Social Security. Worse? How could it be worse? Believe us, it could. How? Really, 2 more applicants for membership. What is this, Grand Central Station? So this team comes in, and that's Jade and Obsidian. Oh, by the way, parent-wise, we belong to Green Lantern. What are you two talking about? That's impossible. Or is it? I dimly remember something that happened years ago. So they're like, hey, gee, they look like those weird youngsters we ran into back in World War II. So now they're referencing the story in All-Star Squadron 25 that happened 45 years ago, because it happens in the future of this comic. They go back in time. It was all planned out. I'm not sure what you mean, but if I had a family, I would know about it. They're stalling, sis. Would you kid put us to a test? So she's demonstrating her power. She calls it her power pulse. You know, what could Obsidian do? He turns into a shadow. Care for some shadow boxing? I'll believe it. He goes, hold it, all of you. We're forgetting for the serious reason for this. You kids are just proving my point by disrupting things. So he, Hawkman's being what's the term? A wet blanket. Zorcom spaceship. Get this cardboard cutout, pretend it's a spaceship. Oh, and then I close the whole freaking comic. Okay, I made it to Zorcom. Meanwhile, so this is, Stan Soap Ops and the Boltons. This is just in-house editorializing. Okay, and who wrote this? Dick Giordano. He was in charge of DC at the time. So here's a nice group shot. Not too dynamic. And artwork. I think Jerry Ordwell is just solid, competent. Just he's the standard that you should judge everybody else by, if you ask me. Okay. And so he asks a question. Who's your mother? He goes, we just told you are our father, Green Lantern. We don't know who our mother was. Bye for now. Don't try to follow us. So you're not going to let us join the team. We're not going to give you the answers you want. You let them just walk out? What right do we have to stop them when we ignored their plea to be JSAers? But I'll get to the bottom of this, I swear it. For now, let's get back to business. Negative, Amazon. You people handle the secret society. I'm making those kids my business. I'm with Power Girl. The way you treated them, you probably don't need youngsters like us either. Look, gals, I voted for letting them join, but still, so did I. After all, I was sort of the Muppet mascot for the JSA years ago, and the Atom was still in college when he became a charter member in the 40s. He goes, but Hector and the others have to learn to go through the channels. Maybe they will. So, Come on. You girls aren't going anywhere until this meeting's over. Call us gals again, Sylvester Pebbleton, and this place will have a star-spangled wall. He goes, we'll be back when you had a chat with those kids you rejected, if we come back at all. So they leave. He goes, I got to be tempted. I was awful tempted to join them. Syl's always had a thing for Power Girl. So here, so these two actually go out and join Infinity Incorporated. And then the door breaks, and it's Brainwave. That's the Brainwave. And that's dun-dun-dun. It was just an introductory issue of the kids busted in, and then the obligatory origin stories. Not the best, but my friend Mike introduced me to this comic, and I just looked at the Brainwave, Junior, Star Spangled Kid, Nucleon. I just hated the names, but I think it was up to issue number 10, and then I bought all the back issues, and I just sat there, and I loved it. I just loved it, and this also has the distinction of being the comic that Todd McFarlane debuted his artwork on, I think around issue 16 or 17 or something like that. And they have just some wonderful villains, like Helix is a team led by Mr. Bones. He's like a guy with invisible skin, so he just looks like a skull, and skeleton, but he wears clothes. And his skin, it secretes cyanide, so if you touch him, you get cyanide poisoning and die. Just a great villain. So many good villains. The Ultra Humanite story is the kickoff story for this. So many good stories. I'm trying to remember now that, and a lot of changes. So the crisis on Infinite Earth happens, and all the Earths merge, and the Justice Society. A lot of these characters kind of disappear, like the original Batman. So what happens to her? Well, they call her Helena Bernatelli, and she just becomes her own character. She went through a whole identity crisis for a while. Like was she Superman? Who was she? She thought she was Atlantean and whatever, and then they just decided, you know what? She's sole survivor from a universe that was destroyed. So she's, instead of just a sole survivor from a planet that was destroyed, sole survivor from a universe that was destroyed. He went through changes because he was actually killed, and then his consciousness was transformed into the body of the 70s version of the Sandman, who went through the dream stream, and he could come to Earth for 1 hour a day, and he stayed with Fury, Lita Hall, and then eventually he was killed again, and he became like the new Dr. Fate, and then I think he was killed again, and now he just goes by the name Sand, and he's like a sand elemental. He could turn into as a silicone-based life. So they just never knew what to do with him. And then Fury, Hippolyta Hall, the original Wonder Woman, never existed. So what happened to her? They just didn't know what to do with her. They called her Fury, and they just made her some mythological based superhero, and then they just kind of quietly forgot about her. But she was married to Hector Hall, and she retired with him into the dream stream, and then they just let her go, just forget about her, because her origins were so irreversibly broken. And then Neil Gaiman took her into the Sandman comics, and she became the mother of Daniel, the new incarnation of the Endless's dream. So she actually plays a good part in the Sandman story. And just note that the actress who's playing her in the TV series looks exactly like her. Just look at that, blonde hair, blue eyes. The actress looks exactly like her. So, because it doesn't matter, right? But so this comic was devastated by the crisis on Infinite Earth, and it never recovered its footing. It kind of just stumbled until it was canceled. So Sylvester Pebbleton, he's like an independent millionaire. He ends up in the next issue leaving the Justice Society, and then he says, we're going to form a super team. He calls it Infinity Incorporated, and he bankrolls the team, gets them a headquarters, gets them, transportation, and all that stuff that a superhero team needs. And then and then eventually he changes his name to Skyman, because Star Spangled Kid is kind of a dated concept, and then Skyman is killed in the very last issue of Infinity Incorporated. Sorry, spoilers. For some reason, he only stays in for a couple issues. I don't know why they got rid of him. He's kind of interesting, generic but cool superhero costume, and that's Infinity Incorporated. I really liked it. It was fun. It was different. I think you could get these issues cheap because the comic kind of just got memory hold. It's kind of forgotten about. They did a second volume of Infinity Incorporated featuring characters that are just I can't even bother to remember them because they didn't use these characters. They made up new characters for the team, and the fact I literally can't remember who they are. That's how memorial. I think they lasted 6 issues or so. But I gotta thank my friend Mike. This is one of the first DC comics that I started to collect. I don't know why something like this appealed to me. So here's a thought that I just realized now. So this is the Justice Society. This is and this is their kids and sidekicks. So these are like the Teen Titans of Earth 2. I don't know why I never thought of that before, because the Justice League has a team of their children and sidekicks, the Teen Titans. Wow, so that's why there was a Teen Titans Infinity Incorporated team-up comic. Duh, I never claimed to be intelligent, everybody. But there you go. It's a fun comic. Kind of cheap if you want to go into the back issue bins. So thanks a lot. See you around. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.